What's going on, everybody? This is Tim.
This is Dom.
Man, we missed you guys. We had the privilege of checking out Malcolm and Marie on last night.
Yep.
And I'm not going to give my thoughts about it just yet because I want to hear what the baby girl had to say. If you don't know who Malcolm and Marie is starring John David Washington, Zendaya, and the infamous...
Directed by the infamous Directed by Sam Levinson, who is also the director of Euphoria, award-winning TV show on HBO Max. It's also starring Zendaya.
We're just going to go and dig right into the movie. What do you think?
Well, romances are not typically our thing, and this wasn't so much of a romance. It really was what I feel was a deep dive into a conversation between two people who had been together for quite some time and were at a point where they were releasing some steam. They had kind of reached this pivotal moment in their relationship, in their careers, more so Malcolm's played by John David Washington, and now that we're at this kind of fork in the road where all this pressure maybe just kind of built up, and we're witnessing this unraveling between the two of them for one reason or another. I enjoyed it. I think that it was a bit lengthy. It almost was like a really long, drawn out conversation that you had to watch.
That's what it was.
And it wasn't so much that it was bad. I just feel like some of the conversation was a little bit exasperated. Like it was just, ugh. It was like a lot. Like when you thought it was about to be resolved, it was like, and another thing. And I'm like, oh, I thought we was finished. Okay. I thought we were done. But I enjoyed the conversation, and I enjoyed kind of being the fly on the wall. There were some parts of the conversation from one or another that I felt like I personally related to. And regardless of the film, although we don't do romances, I think when we watch a film, we are anticipating being taken on a journey, whatever that journey may be, whether that be a journey of excitement and adventure, whether that be an emotional journey, whether that be understanding two people and understanding their backgrounds and their journeys. And so it was really interesting to see the dynamics of their character, to try to figure out what has kind of caused them to be where they are, what was really driving those characters, and what was really funneling or sparking this kind of fiery conversation that we have a privilege to be witness to. But overall, I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. Like I said, a little lengthy. It's a really long conversation, and me as just like, we can finish now. But it was good. It was good. What do you think?
I guess I'll start off with the good parts that I enjoyed about the film, because I wasn't a huge fan of the film. I'll just go ahead and be honest. They did an amazing job with just two people in the entire film.
Yes.
And not leaving any backstory behind. Like, you didn't feel lost. You knew exactly who they were, where they came from, everything leading up to the conversation, and then the present time, and I guess you can say pretty much where it kind of left off.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't have any questions about who they were and who they were together and their dynamic together. I think they did an amazing job in showing the arguments where you get the woman's side and you get the man's side, including their thought processes. And although the conversation was quite natural when it comes to relationships, I think most people who have been in a relationship has experienced this type of experience. This butting of heads and loving each other, but at the same time, it just became almost redundant for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to give kudos to her because she did an amazing job going out on the limb and playing a different character from what you've ever seen before. We've grown up seeing her on, I'm not gonna say grown up because she's a kid, girl compared to us. But we've been used to seeing her on the Disney Channel, singing her songs and doing a little acting like that. But to see her with a major actor and holding her own, which I thought she did, she's an all-out adult. She was an adult.
She was, but if you think about it too, although we kind of grown up seeing her in this kiddie role, Euphoria, who we haven't really had the chance of watching, is a very it's very dramatized, and so I'm pretty sure some of, you know, some of that grunginess probably derived from that, which is about a girl who's recovering from drugs. And so to kind of see her in this role, like, they kind of go hand in hand, and again, which makes sense. And then two, if you think in comparison of Zendaya and John David Washington, really and truly, the veteran is still Zendaya. So although she's against this name, right, John David Washington, who has been in these great films, who comes from acting royalty, essentially Zendaya here is still the veteran. And even in an interview, you know, there's been a lot of controversy about John David's age and how he's like 15 years her senior, kind of playing in his roles and some of the intimate things that they did within the film. But even John David said it, like, you know, I get it, yes, she's younger than me, but truth be told, she's the veteran. She's been in this game a whole lot longer than I have. And, you know, according to him, she really brought some things to the table that had him taking notes. And so I think kind of putting them together in this space, they have a really great chemistry, or they work together, and it was believable. Like, their chemistry together was believable, and even in how they commanded their own monologues and kind of their own scenes, they both were able to really hold their own, and as well as come together in the spaces that really just made sense. Shout out to Sam Levinson, who's already an amazing director, but the way that the film was shot told a lot about the story that we were watching. It told a lot about the dynamics of who they were together as a couple, even from the very first opening scene, which I loved. When they first came home and they were having that conversation, when Zendaya was sitting in the window, or in the porch door, she was smoking that cigarette, and John David Washington was pacing around the living room talking about the film premiere, what people thought, and just the rhythm of it. So you see Zendaya at first smoking the cigarette, and then you see John David Washington take a lap, and the whole time you're looking at Zendaya puff the cigarette. And then when John David Washington came back, then the camera follows John David Washington going around this couch, talking, and he comes back here, and then the camera focuses here, and this kind of like this redundancy really showed. It was almost like it was a depiction of the cycles that we don't necessarily see, that they may have been through before, or could have been a foreshadow for the cycles that we witness as the movie continuously unfolded. So just that opening scene in and of itself was just a brilliant way that Sam Levinson really brought out the drama of what we were getting ready to witness, as well as kind of give a bit of a telltale as to what may have happened before that we didn't get a chance to see, but we're just continuously filled in through film. So I really enjoyed how it was shot. Great job, Sam.
It was definitely uniquely shot, and the only thing I can compare it to is probably going to sound weird, but the cinematography in the movie reminded me actually of a horror movie. Like, it was shot like a horror movie. If you look at some of the scenes, like you see them arguing in the background, but the camera is literally down a long hallway, watching them in the background argue. It's almost made me think of like Paranormal Activity. How they had those cameras set up in certain spots, and it captured the entire thing. And even when she went outside and went looking for her, it felt like a horror movie. And I thought that was a pretty decent spin to put on as far as visuals when it comes down to a romance, if you want to call it.
And I think that's a great point. That's a really great point, because it almost illustrates just how polar what we were watching was happening. Like, when they were close, when they had those moments of breakthrough, they were close. They were touchy-feely. They were on each other. They were in each other's face. We were there. And so was the camera. They was these intimate shots, these portrait shots, really, really tight, and really, really detailed. And then when they were far, they were far. Again, David Washington going all the way outside, walking around this building, Zendaya and Marie nowhere to be found. And so there was like this distance that was created, both film-wise and both from what was happening in the film, that really, again, made you feel this polar opposite of, oh, well, they finished. Oh, no, okay, no, they're back together. Okay, here we go. Oh, no, they finished. She gone. Oh, there she goes again. Oh, there's the reckoning. And so that's a very good point. I think that's great.
Well, since we got all of that out of the way, what are you gonna rate it?
I recommend watch it. I think it's a great conversation piece. I think it brings a lot of dialogue to the table, gives you a lot to think about, and especially in terms of relationships and the dynamics of relationships, and how to navigate conversations / arguments when you have those times when you butt heads.
And what not to do.
Sure, and what not to do. But it's just a great film. I think that it's a great film, a little long, But again, it's a great conversation piece. So I definitely say check it out. Yeah.
Well, for me, like I said, I would, I had to feel the best about the movie. However, it's at least worth watching it at least one time.
At least one time.
Just for the conversational piece.
Exactly. Watch it with your boo or your bae, and afterwards have a really great conversation about the dynamics of your relationship. Try to have one with Tim, but we was on our way to bed. I was already halfway sleepy. So
You don't want that drama, fellas.
it's not drama. It's healthy conversation.
Do not open that can of worms.
Now, ladies, I dare you to open it.